How do you do, ladies and turds, and welcome back to another lovely video. In today's video, I want to be talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 because there's a direct that's going to be happening just in a few days, talking about all the details and everything we need to know about Nintendo's next console. Before that happens, I want to give my expectations and hopes on all the features and games and everything that maybe Nintendo might or might not do. So let's start off with something that I haven't seen done in a very long time now, and those are midnight launches. How awesome would it be to have a midnight release for the Nintendo Switch 2? Kind of how we used to do it for games and consoles back in the day, right? When fans would just kind of line up outside of stores and just kind of talk amongst themselves and wait as the minutes slowly go down. I remember going for a midnight release back when Grand Theft Auto 5, Fallout 4, and even Crash Insane Trilogy came out. It wasn't just like a cheesy thing where you wait in line. No, I brought my, full outfit, like my Aku Aku mask, and I got some like merchandise too, right, for Crash Bandicoot and all the other games. And the energy in those events is something that can't be replicated like online or watching a video, but it also gives like a connection between you and other people that are fans of that series or that console, right? And so seeing something like that for the Nintendo Switch 2 launch would be pretty awesome too. So we can share, in person, like, hey, what do you think is going to come out? Or what features do you think are going to be released or announced from Nintendo? And I think that just adds to like the magic of getting a new console on launch day. And then as for the Nintendo Switch 2 itself, I'm going to guess it's probably going to release sometime in the summer, maybe June or something. I feel like that might be like a good time for Nintendo to stock up on how many supplies they have in stores. But not only that, I also hope that Nintendo actually releases enough units to meet demand this time. If you remember correctly, the Switch launch was a bit rough, with stock shortages going everywhere, sculptors buying up all the Switches they can, and then selling them for crazy amount of prices on eBay. I hope this time around, Nintendo finds a way to avoid that completely and make sure that everyone who wants a Switch is able to pick it up at a normal price without having to deal with any of that bootleg. And that seems to be kind of like a trend with every like Nintendo console. They always like don't seem to meet demands at the start, and then eventually at like a year or two, then they're able to pick up, that console right away. And then moving on to the hardware, I'm really hoping that the Switch 2 will have at least an OLED screen by default. So how nice would that be if instead of having to wait like a year or two for the Switch 2 OLED edition, you just get, this new fancy looking screen right from the start. And speaking of upgrades, I really hope Nintendo finally addresses the issues with the original Joy-Cons. I remember having to send Nintendo my Joy-Cons maybe 3 or 4 different times just to fix the drifting. And that was on the same pair, it kept coming back. So I hope with the Switch 2, they don't have to worry about that anymore and they use something new to completely remove that issue from happening. If the rumors are true about the Joy-Cons being used as a mouse, then I would love to see real-time strategy games make a huge and like bigger appearance on this console. Like I said, Age of Mythology, Rise of Nations, and even Half-Life could make the jump if the Joy-Cons act as a mouse. Because I remember when Commandos 2, one of my favorite games growing up, was ported over to the Switch, you had to use, like the Joy-Cons in like a controller like method. And for me, it just didn't work. Like I just couldn't figure out how to use it like the controller and play this game that I have burned in my brain, the mouse and keyboard controls. And it also makes these games much more fun and accessible for people who don't have a gaming PC or maybe have never heard of or even played these games in the past before. As for the price, I'm really hoping that the Nintendo Switch is maybe around $300 to maybe $400. If Nintendo can keep it around $300, then I'd be very happy. Even though I know the upgrades in the hardware itself probably make it more expensive, I'd rather not have to spend, $400 for like a new console. So I'm always wondering, do I go for the first model and enjoy the games right away? Or do I just wait for that definitive upgraded version later on, right? And it's gonna happen. It always does. Every single console eventually gets either a pro version or a smaller version or like an upgraded, stronger version. I don't want to buy the same console twice. You know, I don't have that kind of money. Please, ladies and gents, help me out. Support me on Patreon. I'm just glad that Nintendo is continuing the Nintendo Switch family and going with, you know, the console being a handheld device instead of creating something different. Because a lot of people seem to enjoy the Nintendo Switch, myself included, and it's called the Nintendo Switch 2. So it makes complete sense, right? That this is a new version, like a next version, right? Completely easy, unlike the Wii U naming scheme. Even though I love the Wii U, I was very salty when the Nintendo Switch was announced like 3 or 4 years after it came out, and it broke my heart. But you know, here we are with Nintendo Switch 2, and it seems like they've learned from their mistakes. Now with that said, let's talk about the games that I'm hoping to see. One of the big ones for me is a new Donkey Kong Country. We haven't had one in a while, and I'm not talking about the Tropical Freeze port or the Donkey Kong Returns remaster from the Wii. I mean like a completely new Donkey Kong Country game. I feel like the Switch 2 would be a perfect spot as a new entry for this series. And I know that everyone is excited about Metroid Prime 4 too to finally come out, myself included. I'm gonna be there day one. I've been waiting, what was it, when they announced it, 2016, 2017? And I have my reaction and everything, and that was like 100 years ago. So I want to be surprised if Metroid Prime 4 is like a launch title now that they showed gameplay in the previous Nintendo Direct. As nice as that would be, like I said, depending on how much this console costs, I don't know if I'll get it day one as much as I would like to. And so maybe Metroid Prime 4, either it'll be a launch day title or it'll come out later in the year. If it's later in the year, because they confirmed many times that it's coming out 2025, I'm hoping that they finally at least remaster Metroid Prime 2 and 3 and bring that out to the Switch 2 as well. What they did with the original Metroid Prime remaster is top notch. Like, the lighting is beautiful, the game plays magnificently, and the controls are just, it's like the definitive way to play Metroid Prime. And so they need to do that for Prime 2 and 3 so people can continue the story into number 4 when that finally comes out. Now, I was gonna talk about this, I talk about this in every single video it seems. Wind Waker and Twilight Princess are still on my list for the Nintendo Switch 2. We know it's gonna happen 100% without a doubt. And also, since they announced that live-action Zelda movie coming out in 2027, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we finally get like Wind Waker or Twilight Princess either by the end of this year or next year, right? Like leading up to that movie. That'd be pretty awesome to build up like that excitement and hype. But it would still be awesome to introduce these classic games and my favorite Zelda game to a new generation of fans. There are also other classic games I would love to see on Nintendo Switch 2. We need a new F-Zero. People have been waiting for that. People have been asking for years. It's been a million years. I don't even know how long now. And I'm sure a lot of fans would love a new entry to this series. Not only that, but for me personally, I want a remaster of Star Fox Adventures for the Nintendo Switch 2. That would be top notch. I love that game on the original GameCube. Even though I'm not really a fan of Star Fox himself, like, you know, the flying around and arcade kind of shooter like gameplay, Star Fox Adventures was kind of like Star Fox meets Zelda, and it's one of my favorite games. And so I hope they continue that tradition of bringing over GameCube games and remastering it for the Nintendo Switch 2. And then it was just announced in, you know, the recent Nintendo Direct that we're getting a new Rhythm Heaven game in 2026, so I'm very excited for that. The new Dragon Quest 2 and 1 HD remakes are coming out. I'm very pumped for that. And then Patapon 1 and 2 are getting officially like remastered and brought over to the Switch in July. I'm definitely going to be playing that because those are one of my favorite PSP games that I played a million years ago on the bus as I was waiting, you know, to get to school. And so I can't wait to replay them on here, the Switch 2. Hopefully Patapon 3 comes out as well as a remaster, because that'd be awesome. And then I'm also looking forward to that one new game. I don't know if it was the same developers, but it looks like a similar game to Patapon. It just has a different name. And then they also revealed that Mario Kart 9 is finally being made. I hope Mario Kart 9 has something new to offer to the series. I know Mario Kart 8, I love that game, came out on the Wii U and I bought it like day one, played it for like 200 or 300 hours, and then it was ported to the Switch with better graphics and more characters and all that stuff. And you know, the huge kind of like gimmick with Mario Kart 8 was like the whole anti-gravity feature. And so knowing Nintendo, there's probably going to be more to Mario Kart 9 than just having like 20 playable characters, right? And also, since, you know, we're talking about Mario Kart and remasters, bring back Double Dash already. You know, like bring back that feature where you can have 2 people on the same cart. That was so unique to have like 2 abilities at the same time. And it still remains my favorite Mario Kart to this day. I know I'm not the only one that wants something like that in the Mario Kart game again. And now, something I've talked about for 100 years and fans would know if you were playing on the 3DS or Wii U back in its prime. Let's not forget about Street Pass and Miiverse, right? The community aspect of Miiverse was something magical. Like you had to be there to experience it, either on the 3DS or Wii U. I used it mainly to share my drawings, my artwork, and help people in certain games. Like if they play Zelda, you go into the Zelda community, you go into the Wind Waker category, and then you can help them by guiding them kind of, you know, how to play through the game for the first time and stuff like that. And it was awesome. I get why Nintendo stopped Miiverse and shut it down and everything, but like, I feel like it needs to come back, especially for the Nintendo Switch 2. Features like that only, you know, connect players all over the world instead of like pushing them apart, right? And then as for Street Pass, basically it worked on the 3DS where if you have your 3DS in your pocket and it's turned on and you walk by, you know, let's say you're going to school, the mall, or wherever, and then someone else also has a 3DS in their pocket, your 3DSs communicate with one another. And then you send your little characters to their game. And then you can do things like, you know, interact in the street plaza. And it was just a small little thing that made these consoles that much more personal and fun, right? And I feel like Nintendo, like its entire thing is about fun. So why not bring back Street Pass on the Nintendo Switch 2? At least Street Pass, right? I love Miiverse too, but like, come on, Street Pass just makes sense. This is a handheld / console, and it could definitely benefit from that feature. And another thing I love about the 3DS was actually the ability to organize games into folders and also apply different themes, right? Like Nintendo, this is a very simple thing to do, yet it was effective. You know, not to just personalize your own console, but to keep things organized, right? Especially with the Switch and how many digital games people actually have. It's insane we don't have folders now, let alone a different theme other than light and dark. People have been begging for that since the Nintendo Switch came out. It's like a no-brainer, and it would make like navigating the console feel even more customizable. And then don't forget about the eShop music too. The 3DS and the Wii U had a very catchy and like relaxing theme whenever you were browsing through the store, depending on if it was on the holidays or like a random week or an event happening. It changed the music all the time too. There was different categories, there was different groups, you can see what games were on sale, you can see what games were available for Virtual Console, you can see trailers that were just announced, everything was just there and it just worked. It was snappy, it was fast, and it just worked. I remember going there just to listen to the music sometimes. And you can't do that anymore. Now it's just quiet and just like little clicking sounds when you move left and right. It's boring. And then there's also been talks, like since Xenoblade X came out, right, that people found a 60 frames per second unlockable mode in the files themselves, but you can't use it for the original Nintendo Switch. So people are thinking that this game actually has that 60 FPS mode all ready to go for the Nintendo Switch too. And so I'm hoping developers, they utilize these features too, and kind of upgrade some of their games that were on the original Nintendo Switch. So for example, let's say Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, right? It was remastered from the PS2. I love that game. Not only is it backwards compatible with the Switch 2, because that was confirmed that it's going to be, right? All, if not most games from the Nintendo Switch are backwards compatible, but can you imagine if developers actually took the extra time to make it 60 frames per second, full 1080p, and maybe improve textures and lighting and just little things to make the Nintendo Switch 2 version the definitive version, if anything. Like, that would be so cool, right? I'm gonna assume that maybe some developers don't put in the time to upgrade their games for the new features of the Nintendo Switch 2. So it'd be nice if Nintendo let us fully customize, the features ourselves. Like, can we customize the controls how we want? Or can we customize like the in-game settings kind of like a PC, right? On the Switch 2. Stuff like that would go a long way. But there's just so much to, to be excited about for Nintendo's next console, right? Even though I was salty when the Nintendo Switch came out because I had a Wii U and, felt like they were abandoning that console and porting all the games to this new console. I'm a fan now, right? Like, it grew on me, and it's been 8 to 10 years now since the original Nintendo Switch came out, which is insane, right? That Nintendo was able to kind of keep the Switch kind of alive and going for that long. And so I'm hoping that the Nintendo Switch 2 does even better than the original Nintendo Switch. And I'm pretty certain that it will, because it has backwards compatibility and because it's portable. Like, that's one of the main reasons I like this console so much, is because it's portable and I can play games like RPGs away from my computer or away from consoles, right? That I wouldn't have had a chance otherwise. And I can't wait to see what Nintendo actually has in store for us in that April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which is in just a few days now. So, ladies and turds, from the hardware upgrades to the new games and features to everything I mentioned, Street Pass, Miiverse, themes, folders, everything, what kind of stuff would you like to see from the Nintendo Switch 2? What kind of stuff would make you buy this console day one or eventually, right? Like, what games are you wanting to play on this? Can you imagine if we got remakes of, the Legend of Zelda Oracle games? Or maybe even 4 Swords with online capabilities? That would be awesome, right? And can you imagine what the next giant Legend of Zelda game is gonna be on this new console? Like, my mind is going crazy just thinking about all these things. That's my predictions, those are my thoughts, and those are my expectations for the Nintendo Switch 2. Will they come true? Will I be completely wrong? Who knows? We'll find out in a few days during that Direct, and we'll find out in the next few years to see how well the Nintendo Switch 2 actually does. So thanks for watching, ladies and turds, and I'll see you all on another lovely video. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.